So how many of you have been told that you've hit your limit or felt as though you've reached as high as you can go? We all have or will peak, right? We've met our maximum threshold for performance in our careers or our personal lives within the limitations of our personalities, our experiences, or our genetic makeup. And you know what I have to say to all of that? It's crap. It's totally false. It's not true. There's no threshold or preset limitation for you. You are only limited by yourself and the decisions that you make. And if you want to live a soft life without challenge, well, you wouldn't be here today, right? You're here attending a Whittle event, doing some professional development. And you obviously want to better yourself. And there's untapped potential in all of us. And we can open that up through leading ourselves and by leading self. One of the tools that you can do and use to practice all that is by building your network and by building what I like to call course changing connections. The power of network and building relationships. That's what it all boils down to. You may never know how close you were to something when all you had to do was make that first move, say hi, be bold, shake a hand maybe back before COVID days. But you've got to embrace getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, welcome it, and really start to learn how to thrive in it. So relationships, right? Like I said, that's what it's all about. I don't care if you're an introvert or an extrovert, or sometimes vert like me. Most days I like people, sometimes I don't. But the bottom line is getting through life and getting to places you want to go and be successful. It takes work, okay? And it takes a team. It takes a network. Everything I have today has come from network. By the time I left high school and went on to college, I had hit my ceiling of my network. Through sports and professional organizations within my high school, I had a good handle on, what was going on. I knew all the seniors within the county. We played sports against each other. We played science Olympiad, math team, kind of nerdy stuff. But again, it all seemed very capped out. And then college happened. And I went from access to about 500 people to 40,000 overnight. And it was totally life-changing. And it was actually really overwhelming and very intimidating at the same time. My network ceiling was ripped wide open, and I couldn't even predict what was about to happen. And to be honest, I wasn't really ready to branch out. I was comfortable with that network that I had. It was a group of common people that I felt very similar to, same farming town, same small town opportunities. I was finding myself like, how would I relate to my new college peers? What was I going to bring to the table? What commonalities, what was I going to have with them? So I joined an organization and found a group of people with a common goal and a common interest to become officers in the United States Air Force. So I joined ROTC and I started making friends from all over the state. Some of them were definitely from outside of the state of Michigan, but it was very inspiring coming from such a small town, getting to hear, growing up in the city, having crazy opportunities at your school, more sports than you knew what to do with, and then graduating of classes of 300, 400, 500. But it was through ROTC and joining organizations like Arnold Air Society, Drill Team, think National Honor Society on that college level. But my network continued expanding. Arnold Air was a national organization and they held regional conferences, which I decided hey, that kind of sounds cool. And I signed up to attend one. And I attended my first conference that fall in 2009 in Detroit. So here comes course changing connection number one. So I was helping host the conference, great mugshot, 18-year-old Gabby, and I got to oversee registration. And, it was really neat. I got to meet and greet students from all over universities, from Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. But I mainly networked with the Cincinnati crew as they were the ones who were going to take over the conference that following year. And the cadet leading it was an upperclassman male. And, in my brain, I was like, it's probably smart if we connect, hand off continuity, just trying to make sure that I was helping set them up for success for that following year. So it pushed me out of my comfort zone. I had to make that first move, make that initial connect, hand off, back then it was just an email. We didn't have all the social media we did now. But it was taking that first step, talking and getting to know and working with a student from outside of my detachment. So connection number one, James from Cincinnati. So let's move forward to 2010. I'm now attending a conference on a national scale. I know I'm bigger and badder now. And I was fortunate enough to be elected as the national commander of an organization. And I got to lead on a national capacity. And what was really neat about this is when you were in that role, you were also assigned a group of advisors pretty much just for you. And one of my advisors was Dan, then Lieutenant Whalen, and he really showed me the ropes. He took me under his wing, taught me a lot about leadership, how to lead peers, how to own a room, how to not suck, right? And I was lucky enough to get hired on as advisor to after I graduated. And the first commander I mentored was this cadet named Kevin. And Dan and I both were still advisors, and we got the opportunity to develop our leadership styles and learn a lot about ourselves through mentoring and just building that relationship with Kevin. So course changing connection, I would say number 2 and 2.5 are Dan and Kevin. And then through that whole era of college and ROTC, I had a female from the United States Air Force Academy that I worked very closely with. Her name was Jocelyn, and we had a great working relationship. She was a standout performer. We stayed friends. I was in her wedding. She visited me in Germany at my first duty location. But, through kids and growing up and growing apart, we lost touch a bit. But we still always kind of knew that we were in each other's back pocket and our network if we needed one another. And so you're probably wondering, okay, how did these people get you to where you are now? So let's work backwards. Jocelyn randomly saw me post on LinkedIn this past fall, like not too long ago. I was in a midlife crisis trying to figure out what job I wanted to do. And she was living in the same area in Ohio as well. And she had recently applied for this competitive program within GE Aviation called the Junior Officer Leadership Program. And she shot me a message and said, hey, you might be interested in this. Why don't you contact the HR guy I've been working with and apply and see what happens? And somehow, long and behold, I got in. I still pinch myself every day. It's an amazing program. I got my foot in the door with corporate, and I'm working with a company I never even dreamed that I would be working for, right? And it all came down to that course changing connection. Staying in touch with Jocelyn and keeping her in my network to where, she was there for me when I needed her. So Dan and Kevin, let's fast forward about 10-ish years, right? Let's go forward a whole decade. We're basically the three amigos. We've been pretty much inseparable for the past decade. We're in constant contact. They text me more than my significant other does. And Kev came on to be an advisor after he graduated as well. And so we've been mentoring, leading, consulting national commanders for the past 8 to 10 years. And then we did this together. We started a company and we published a book. We took those lessons and we learned, all those lessons that we had learned through mentoring and through leadership. And we did something that was life-changing for us. We didn't even know we could write that many paragraphs, to be honest, but we did it. And it's led to numerous speaking engagements, publicity in magazines, teaching at military schools, and really just something that we're so proud of. And again, that all boiled down to that course changing connection, attending conferences, meeting them, and networking. All right, James, the nerd kid from Cincinnati. So I helped him plan his conference that following year, back in 2010, that was held in Cincinnati. And I actually attended it in the capacity of the national commander. And it was good to link up with James again. He actually does go by Jay, though. And I may have seen him a few times over that summer. And then after the conference, I guess I liked him so much, I continued to hang out with him even more. We then got married. We have 2 beautiful daughters now, and we've been traveling the world together for, 10, 11, going on 11 years now. And again, going to that conference, getting out of my comfort zone, I was able to make a course-changing connection. And by far, he is my favorite course-changing connection. And I wouldn't have anything, without that first step. And there's so many more I could list, but the point is to show you how powerful connections can be and really how life-changing they can be without you even knowing in that exact moment. So why is all of this important? Why does it matter? It matters because connections lead to mentors. Connections lead to mentees. Connections lead to open doors, new visions, innovation, right? Connections lead to potential jobs and business opportunities. Connections lead to family and new friendships. Connections lead to help you maybe didn't even know you needed. One thing we're really big on with GLDS consulting is delivering you that how. You know, the why is important. It's easy to like lay it out there, why you should connect, why you should be a good leader. But what is that tangible how? How do you actually do it? So how do you do this? How do you connect and how do you improve leading self? Well, the first thing is you take the first step. You've got to be proactive and put yourself out there. Nothing is going to happen until you make that first move. If you sit around waiting, nothing's going to happen. I hate to break it to you. And secondly, take advantage of development opportunities, professional development, training. You know, if you're involved in a bunch of organizations, associations, but you never go to any of their conferences or their trainings that are held, what are you really doing a part of that group then? Be proactive in that group. Sign up for things. Do something different for a change. You never know until you sign up what you might actually get out of it. And then number 3, be present in the connections that you have and be genuine once you have them, and then put that effort in to keep them. It's so easy to have a shallow relationship. You know, I can have a shallow relationship just by thinking I know somebody, by Googling them, looking at their LinkedIn page or Facebook. That's not what's important with your network. What is their purpose? What's their why? Do you know their story? Put that effort in to make those deep connections within your network, and you'll be amazed at what happens next. And then fourth, and finally, I know it's about, we said leading self, but it's really not just about you. You may be awesome at networking and making connections, and that's great. But what about those around you? Those people that you are connected with and that are already in your network? How are they connecting and networking as well? Give back and teach people how to do it as, you know, if you're successful, teach them your tricks and traits. And through networking with organizations like Whittle, like you're doing right now, and LOA, you're already expanding your network. But take full advantage of it. I'm an involved life member with the Air Force Association, and it being a national organization, as I moved around from base to base, city to city, I always had a chapter of people I could look up to in that area. I knew they'd be there to help. Maybe they would go check on a house I wanted to rent. They would just answer off-the-wall questions. And then they would introduce me and help me start networking now in that new area I was in. The point is the networks are out there. It just comes down to how much you're willing to put yourself out there and be proactive about it. So again, be bold, be brave. Don't be afraid to take that first step. Your life is going to change, you know, if it hasn't already. It might change 180 degrees, and it might just take 5 degrees slight alterations. You know, I was active duty. I was fully immersed in the maintenance world, living, breathing, just loving the military, hoping to be a GO one day, a general officer. But life changes, and my priorities changed. You know, family, kids, aspirations, and that's okay. And I'm not saying you can't make both work, but for me, it just wasn't in the cards. But I now get to work in a corporate world. I co-own a consulting business, and I get to do my Air National Guard thing on the side. My goals and dreams totally changed and took a new course, but it only makes me human. And guess what? It only makes you human if the same happens to you. But what helped me find purpose and helped me uncover my new path was my network, my organizations, and my mentors who helped me make new connections and open new doors to get me down those new paths. My course 100% changed, and the outcome came down to those connections, right? Those course changing connections. The power of network is as strong as you not only make it, but that you believe in it. So what's next? You know, what's up for you? How can you be bold? How do you start making connections and making a difference? So I challenge you. I challenge you to make a new connect this week. Let's say this month, right? Because weeks easily get away from us these days. Reach out to someone, maybe on this Whittle event, maybe on your LinkedIn or your social media. Connect more with me if you want. Connect more with JD, with Anna, but reach out, make a new connection. Get out of your comfort zone. But remember, it takes genuine interest and want in expanding your network. You can do it just to practice. You can do it for the sake of networking. And you can do it because simply human connection matters at the end of the day. Maybe it isn't just you who needs that connection. Maybe that person that you reach out to actually needed you more than you needed them. Or heck, maybe just putting a smile on somebody's face is totally worth it in the end.